Good morning, all. So we are going to start the Meet the Press. So as you all know that for 3 days we have the special Tibet Subgroup meeting with the convergence of more than over 100 participants from 32 different countries. So on the first day, the participants of all the special meeting had come up with the declaration. So we have right now with Honorable Sikyong, Dharmshala, and the host of the special Tibet Subgroup conference meeting, Khrimey, and then the representative of all the participants, Müller, is here. So without further ado, I would like to request Müller to read the declaration.
This is the Dharamshala declaration of the Special International Tibet Support Groups meeting from 7 to 9 March 26 in Dharamshala, India. We, representatives of Tibet support groups, convened at the Special International Tibet Support Groups meeting from 7 to 9 March 26 in Dharamshala, India, with over 100 participants representing 32 countries, united in our unwavering commitment to stand in solidarity with the Tibetan people in their struggle for freedom, justice, and the preservation of their distinct national identity, do hereby declare. In this auspicious year of compassion, officially designated by the Central Tibetan Administration, in celebration of the 90th birthday of His Holiness the Great 14th Dalai Lama, we extend our heartfelt greetings and sincere wishes for his long life and continued good health. We reaffirm the profound significance of the institution of the Dalai Lama, which for centuries has served as a central pillar of Tibetan Buddhism and a cornerstone of Tibetan cultural and national identity. That since the Chinese communist invasion and occupation of Tibet, the Tibetan people have had to undergo much suffering, not only losing their country's independence, but being faced with the very extinction of their identity, culture, religion, and way of life. Despite this, the Tibetan people, under the leadership of His Holiness the Great 14th Dalai Lama and that of the elected Tibetan leadership, have continued to stick to their non-violent approach to regain Tibetan freedom and dignity. We, the supporters of Tibet gathered in Dharamshala, applaud the courage and determination of the Tibetan people, express our commendation to their peaceful approach to their struggle, and call on the international community to effectively support such non-violent initiatives to avoid international crisis. We have taken cognizance of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama's definitive guidance, most notably in his comprehensive statement of 2 July 25 on the issue of Tibetan religious freedom, including on the issue of recognition of reincarnation in Tibetan Buddhism. We express our gratitude to His Holiness for reaffirming the continuation of the centuries-old institution of the Dalai Lama, for vesting the exclusive authority to identify his reincarnation in the Garden Podrang Trust, acting in consultation with traditional Tibetan Buddhist spiritual authorities. We unanimously endorse His Holiness' statements, recognizing them as the exclusive and final authority regarding his reincarnation. Furthermore, we assert that any attempt by the government of the People's Republic of China to intervene in this sacred Tibetan religious tradition constitutes a grave violation of international norms and the fundamental right to freedom of religion. We remain committed to opposing and countering any such interference. We applaud the Tibetans in exile for their democratic governance system as exemplified by the elected Central Tibetan Administration leadership. We reaffirm our recognition of and support to the CTA as the sole legitimate government of the Tibetan people, representing the authentic voice of Tibetans both inside and outside Tibet. We call upon governments, international organizations, and civil societies to extend formal recognition to CTA as the Tibetan government in exile and engage with it as such. Finally, we deliberated on the ongoing repressive Chinese policies in Tibet and renew our unwavering commitment to the just cause of Tibet and to the pursuit of a peaceful resolution to the Sino-Tibetan conflict. We call for the resumption of direct dialogue between the representatives of His Holiness the Dalai Lama or the democratically elected Tibetan leadership and the government of the People's Republic of China without preconditions. We recommit to intensifying global advocacy, documenting human rights violations, and sustaining international attention on the situation in Tibet until a just and lasting resolution is achieved. Adopted unanimously on 7 March 26 by the Special International Tibet Support Groups meeting, Dharamshala, India. Thank you.
If there's any questions from the press.
How much hope do you have? Because, you know, we see a lot of Tibet support intention here, but, you know, to bring solid results, we have to bring, you know, get the support of the governments and, you know, international bodies. So how much hope do you have of achieving these ambitions?
From the Tibet supporters.
Yeah. See, we have a lot of hope. The initiative or the resolution which have taken for is that, you know, we are at the moment keeping the flame of issue of Tibet is keeping alive. And with this uncertainty of the world order at present, you see, tomorrow when there is an opportunity of, you know, the coming to some resolutions, the issue, alive issue is very, very important. So at the moment, the work which has been done by the Tibet Support Group, both nationally, internationally, is, you know, we are keeping the Tibet issue absolutely on the and in front of the world. So this is the big achievement for us. This is what, and therefore we are very hopeful that whenever there is any change in the world order, Tibet issue will come and the solution will be there. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think hope is one thing that I think all of the participants share for the cause, but there are also plans. I mean, there's not just, I mean, a advocacy into the air, so to speak, but there are plans. The CTA is implementing plans, is drawing up plans. So is the civil society and the Tibet movement, and there have been achievements over the past, both by the CTA and civil society. So I think that is offering encouragement to continue pressing for change, not just on a hope basis, which is important, but actually on a basis of concrete plans.
My question is not particularly related to this declaration, but I think it's still relevant, and it's directed to our Sikyong. So Sikyong, in your key address, you mentioned that there's no wrong in the middle way policy and that it reflects the democratic will of the Tibetan people. So at the same time, you also said that Tibetans cannot remain the same amid changing international circumstances and we must adapt. So how do we reconcile these two positions? And if the policy itself is assumed to be sound, where exactly does the need for change lie? And when you speak about generating greater acceptance of the two ends that frame the middle way in order to gain leverage for it, how does that strategy work in practice? And I also wanted to ask about the wording in US appropriation bill, which refers to the Central Tibetan Administration as the Tibetan government in exile. So as we know, the Tibetan leadership itself formally adopted the term Central Tibetan Administration rather than the government in exile. How should we understand this difference in wording? Does the reference in the US legislation reflect a political recognition that goes beyond the terminology we use ourselves? or is it simply a symbolic expression of support rather than any diplomatic position? Thank you.
Right, maybe I'll take the second question first regarding the new language in the appropriations. It says for this act, that is for the appropriation bill or the act, the Central Tibetan administration would be considered Tibetan government in exile. So this is one issue that we have been raising with the US administration for a long time, that whenever they feel like they treat us as a non-governmental organization, or whenever they feel like they treat us as a government, depending on how they want to use it at that time, I think this is resolved technically through these new wordings. And it also provides for the US government to give direct funding to Central Tibetan administration. Now, your question was more about the term that we use for ourselves here as Central Tibetan administration and the new language in the appropriations. There is no need to be any confrontation or contradiction in these two positions. This is one position that we have taken in India as an organization, not to face any legal challenges because of our name. By existing here in India, we are allowed a lot of privileges which not many others have. So government of India and people of India have been very, very kind, but then we should not be taking things for granted. So we have to secure ourselves. These are long-term strategies of His Holiness at that time to rename Central Tibetan administration from the Tibetan government. So there is no contradiction of any sort. And I think we also mentioned, the resolution here also mentions that we will be working on further legislations to legitimize the Central Tibetan administration as the true representatives of Tibetans inside and outside Tibet. So this is more for the appropriation. So this wording, this new language should not be construed as a resolution or the policy of the United States government to see Central Tibetan as administration as Tibetan. There has to be different processes for that. So that we are moving on that. It's just at a very nascent stage. So it will take years before legislations are adopted. Like the Resolve Tibet Act, it took more than 2 years. 아니 주어 당보디 가래. 나. 오멜람다 주과다. So the middle way is the official policy, as we all know. Right now, middle way has not been gaining traction for some time. That is why we try to think about how do we gain traction on middle way? How do we gain value for middle way? How do we gain leverage for middle way so that Chinese government will take notice and come and talk to us? Now, how do we make that happen? So as I explained before, for China, sovereignty is a major issue, which His Holiness addressed through the middle way policy. Now, through our new strategy, what we are trying to do is to seek recognition for the ends. When His Holiness talks about middle, then there are ends. One end is the historical status of Tibet. So that is the truth. And today, Tibet is an occupied country. That's also the truth. Now, what we can achieve, what we can get, not get, depends on a lot of situations in future. So the position that the President Kashak has taken by following the same middle way, by being committed to the middle way, because as we said, there is nothing wrong with the middle, then whose fault is it? It's Chinese fault for not responding to the pragmatic approach of His Holiness. So the objective of this position was fourfold, as I have told the Tibetan community many times. One is to send a clear message to the Chinese government that you cannot distort Tibetan history. The second is to tell the international community that what you're doing is contradictory to what you're saying. The two positions that, they keep repeating like a parrot what the Chinese government wants them to say, that Tibet is part of People's Republic of China, and on the other hand, they say they support negotiations between representative of His Holiness Dalai Lama and the Chinese government. So these two positions does not go together. It contradicts each other, because that is, you're removing the very foundation, very basis for negotiation. When every country keeps saying Tibet is part of PRC, where is the reason for China to come and talk to us? Now, if more countries adopt this position that Tibet was historically an independent state, then that might force China to come and talk to us. That is our strategy. But if you look at the reality of situation in China today and what Xi Jinping and his government is doing to peoples like Tibetans, that's why I kept saying that even the back channels that we do have right now, it's not consequential in that sense. So our strategy is, again, the third point is for the Tibetan community. You know, we have independence proponents, we have middle way proponents. Now with this new strategy, all of us can come together. And it opens up a lot of space in future. Today's China is not a communist China. Under the garb of communism, I started calling it autocratic capitalists. Right? So a lot of things will depend on evolving situation. Nobody can definitely say anything. The first question was on hope. Hope is what keeps us alive. If there is no hope, then the Sino-Tibet conflict would have been dead long time ago. So we have to keep hoping, but then again, just like Kai Müller said, we work with a plan, with a strategy as to how to achieve that in the shorter term, mid-term, longer term. So every strategy has to have its phases. So in the last 5 years, we managed to get the US government on board. We have to reach out to other governments. Just as I mentioned this morning, we managed to get support of at least 38 different countries for His Holiness Reincarnation. And these are the evidence that we are collecting because the world needs evidence. And these collections of evidence reflects what the free world wants regarding His Holiness. So I believe that we are moving in a very strategic way and how to navigate the present turbulence that is happening around the world and keep ourselves afloat, at least for the time being, till things settle down and we can find better platforms to reflect our visions.
Without any questions, we are going to end the press. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.